Most people file for divorce out of emotion or frustration, and they usually regret how fast they went into it and how it was handled in the very beginning. These same people usually think that a quick divorce is going to bring them relief, freedom, or some kind of quick fix to their situation. But what actually happens is they get blindsided with the fact that it's a very slow, expensive process that's very emotionally draining, and they have absolutely no control over the outcome of their case. There's also something about a quick emotional divorce that brings out the toxic dynamics in people. Those little toxic traits that your spouse has always get worse when there's litigation over the divorce process. Going into the process too fast without giving a lot of thought and being strategic usually causes that conflict to escalate, not resolve. My name's Sean Smallwood. I've been a family law attorney in Florida for 15 years. This is Inside Divorce. This is a place where anyone considering divorce gets the inside scoop before they pull the trigger so they are set up for success. There are 5 things that anyone considering divorce needs to absolutely do before they pull the trigger on filing that divorce. Number 1 is getting the finances straight. I see this in almost every case I have. If a married couple is together in one household and they're in financial chaos, meaning they can't keep up with bills, they can't keep up with debt payments, that financial situation is going to become critically worse once a divorce is filed and the parties start looking at separating. It's super common for people going through divorce to have this experience where the other party just suddenly starts going crazy with their spending, whether they're running up a bunch of credit card debt, buying a new car out of the blue, or just wasting money on non-essential items. There's something about the divorce process that causes people to start looking at their spending in a weird emotional way rather than a logical way that's preparing for a calm, stable financial situation through the process. Everybody considering divorce should know exactly what their monthly budget is, what their bills are, how much they need each month to survive financially, how much of a surplus they have financially every month, or how much of a deficit, how far behind their expenses they are each month. If you don't have a clear understanding of your financial situation, you're in a lot of danger of things like the mortgage not getting paid, the electric getting shut off, car notes not getting paid. And I can tell you after walking thousands of people through this process over the years, that financial chaos added to the strain of the divorce process itself makes the whole thing so much harder on people and so much worse emotionally than it needs to be. There's absolutely no reason that people need to have their financial lives and their credit destroyed going through divorce. And a little bit of thought ahead of time can save so many people from that. The next thing that you need to do before you file for divorce is stop, take a deep breath, and really just identify the decisions and the thoughts that you're having that are highly emotional versus logical. Oftentimes, when you're heading into a divorce, you have just found out that the other party may have been cheating, or they may have a new boyfriend or girlfriend, or they may have been spending money or doing things that you had no idea about, and that can hurt. You know, the old saying that hurting people hurt people, I find that to be extremely true as a 15-year divorce lawyer. Often when we get bad news like that and we have that emotional hurt, it has a significant impact on the decisions that we make as we're going into divorce. Don't forget, divorce attorneys are essential for this process, but they do make more money the more you fight with your spouse. So it's going to be more up to you to take that deep breath and stop and analyze every decision, every move that you're going to make as it relates to the divorce, every conversation that you're going to have with the other spouse, every decision you're going to make regarding the kids. Identify what is logical from emotional, because if you're hurt, if you're angry, if you are making your decisions emotionally, that divorce process is going to be a lot worse. It's going to be a lot more expensive. And that old cliche saying that the only winners will be the lawyers is going to ring true for you, and I just don't want that for you. The next thing that everybody needs to be doing before they file for divorce is talk to a lawyer. This is a critical step because most people don't realize that the laws regarding divorce are super complicated. Family law is one of the most complex, difficult areas of law to practice that's out there. And there's absolutely no reason that anyone should be going into that process on their own without a really solid attorney who knows what they're talking about. Going into a process with kids, going into this process with assets or high incomes without an attorney can result in getting in a lot of trouble based on making decisions that you thought were right, that you thought made sense. But one thing I can tell you after 15 years in the trenches of doing divorce work is the law and the courts as it relates to divorce does not line up with common sense most of the time. Really well-intending, logical, good people make mistakes in their divorce because they're not following legal advice and they're doing things that seem like they make sense. They seem like they're the right decision. They seem like they'll look good to the judge, but they don't. One of the areas where this rings true the most is when it comes to child custody in a divorce. Oftentimes, a parent feels like for the safety of their kids, they need to withhold some contact from the other parent. That is a huge trap. If that's a situation that you're in, you absolutely have to be talking to an attorney who knows what they're doing before you go down that road, because that is an area where a lot of parents get themselves into tons of trouble in the divorce process. And that's only one of many examples of potential traps that people fall into. The divorce process, if it's contested, is highly complex. You need to be extremely thoughtful and strategic as you're going through it, and you need an experienced lawyer to walk you through. That should just be a no-brainer for you. The next thing everyone needs to be focused on before they file for divorce is really just make sure that they're thinking long-term. When people go through this process, they're hurt, they're angry, they're emotional. That frame of thinking, like that emotional hurt mindset, in my experience, really forces people to only be looking at things and thinking in the short term. And the problem is that what happens in a divorce is going to impact your life and your relationship with your kids and your finances for many, many years. And because of that, everybody going through this process needs to be thinking long-term. So if you're about to get an argument over text with your spouse, if you're about to make a decision regarding temporary timesharing, if you're about to pull money out of a bank account or remove property from a home or anything, you need to stop and ask yourself, is this going to benefit my long-term goals? Like, what are my goals for the outcome of this case? What are my goals 5 years after this case is over? What do I want my life to look like 5 years, 10 years after this divorce is over? And is this decision something that's going to help me get to that goal? Or is this something that could potentially stop me or hurt me from getting to that point? That's also where you having a very experienced, honest, down-to-earth attorney helping you make that decision is going to be really important. And this is something that almost nobody does when they're going through the divorce process. And this is something that if more people could do it, so many cases would resolve more amicably, so much less conflict would be happening in the courts, and so many fewer kids would be negatively impacted by the process. The last thing for this video, certainly not the last thing that people need to be considering before divorce, but for purposes of this video, is if anyone who knows me knows that I can't talk about divorce without talking about the potential of marriage counseling and reconciliation. Yes, I'm a divorce attorney. Yes, I've been doing it for 15 years. But also in situations where the parties are maybe just disagreeing about money or disagreeing about parenting or disagreeing about something that can be rehabilitated, like something that can be fixed, the best outcome is maybe not to even get divorced, right? Now, I get it. There's toxic spouses that just won't change. There's cheating. There's substance abuse, domestic violence. There's all kinds of situations where there's just no choice. That ship has sailed. That bell is rung. There's no alternative but to move forward with a divorce for most people. There are lots of people who file for divorce every day in the world. And if they had just put a little bit of effort into maybe hearing their spouse or trying marriage counseling or having reconciliation as that option in their head, they may not have had to go down that road. I'm not telling anyone not to get divorced, but I am telling everyone to make sure that there are no other alternatives to save the marriage before they pull that trigger. Because most of the time, in my experience, once you file for divorce and you have the other party served, in their mind, that's like this formal declaration of war, and it really signals the emotional death of the marriage for the person who gets served with the petition. I do have some materials that are in production right now, courses and other written materials to help people figure out should they be filing for divorce versus trying to save the marriage. So how to get an amicable resolution to your divorce, uncontested, without fighting. How to prepare and negotiate at mediation. How to address high conflict child custody issues. Once those things are live, there will be links everywhere for that. I really hope that this video added some value to your situation. I really hope that this helped and resonated with you. If it did, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up or heart the video. And then obviously subscribe or follow me for more content on that divorce decision and that divorce process. The biggest thing to know right now is if you're in a situation and you're considering divorce, that means that you are probably going through one of the most emotionally difficult times in your life. And I've walked thousands of people through that process over the years, and I know how harmful and painful it can be. The only thing that I can tell you right now to offer you some sort of encouragement is that out of all of the cases that I've seen over the years, there's one consistent thing that has been true for every client, and that is that in time, it gets better. There will be a day where you're happy again. Everything will be okay. This is a temporary situation that does not define the rest of your life. Just remember that because it's true. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one.